Northern Brewery takes you where homebrewing and craft brewing meet. From pro breweries to home breweries, we live and breathe beer. Craft beer celebrities, homebrew luminaries, brew sessions, and most important of all, lots of great beer. You are watching Brewing TV.
Welcome to Brewing TV, presented by Northern Brewer. I'm Chip Walton, your ghost host with the most. While homebrewing is something you can do for and by yourself, sometimes it's more fun to brew for someone, or maybe for something. An event, say like a wedding, an anniversary, or even a parade. In this episode, we do just that. I'll take you to Northern Brewer, Minneapolis, where my coworker Joe Giambruno is brewing an all-grain Maibock. We're going to ferment and lager it to perfection and serve it at another coworker Andrew's annual May Day parade party in South Minneapolis. So grab a pint and your parade shoes, come along with us, because today we're brewing a Maibock for May Day.
Hey BTV fans, I'm your younger, more attractive host today. So long Keeler, so long Dawson. We're here at the Northern Brewer Minneapolis Learning Annex. We're going to be brewing a traditional double-decocted Maibock today. We're doing this for a friend's May Day party, so we're brewing it up and we're going to lager it for a few months, and hopefully it's going to be fantastic when May comes around. Today we're going to be brewing the Northern Brewer's Maibock kit. The all grain kind of gives you a few options to brew it. You can do a single infusion, which is having your sack rest at 152, or you can do a stepped mash, doing a protein rest, multiple stage saccharization rest, and then a mash out. Today we're going to go more old school, traditional, the way they did it back in Germany. We're doing a double decoction here. For the all grain version, we're doing a 10-gallon batch, splitting it up for two different yeasts. We're going to do the 2124, which is the Bohemian lager yeast. That's the one that's recommended for the kit. We're also going to do the Hellebuck Y yeast seasonal. According to Dawson, is one of the best lager yeasts, so why not give it a whirl? A little bit before 7, we're starting to mash in. This Maibock is predominantly Pilsen. There's a little bit of Carahel in there. A good kind of rule of thumb is mashing in 12 degrees higher than what your target temperature is. However, right now it's not working out. We're still a little high. We want to hit our protein rest in. We're aiming for 122. We're still in the 130 range. So I'm going to throw in the wort chiller here. Give it a quick, make sure it's really quick. You don't want to overdo it to bring us down to the right temperature. You know, you can always add in cold water, but by then you're changing the proportion of water to grist, your ratio there, and that affects a whole different amount of things. I had a wort chiller right there. Why not throw it in? Why not? It worked. It dropped me down perfectly to 122. Sure, there's a lot of haters out there, but it worked. So we had our rest. We're resting at 122. We've done that for a good 20 minutes. So now it's time to pull our first decoction. A good kind of rule of thumb I learned from watching Brewing TV was you want to take about a quart per every pound of grist. And in this case, I've got 27 pounds of grist in this puppy. So that's 27 scoops I gotta move over for my decoction. In a beer like this one, you are going to taste the scorching, the burnt sugars. So make sure none of that's happening. You're raising it at, an appropriate pace, so you're not taking forever, but you're also not scorching. Now that we've been boiling, we're gonna let this go for 15 minutes. I'm gonna be stirring pretty constantly now. So now that we killed the heat, we're ready to move it back. At the proportion I told you, the 1 quart per pound of grist ratio, you're gonna have a little bit more than what you need, which is good. You don't wanna be under. So we're gonna slowly move this back in. We're gonna be watching our temperature of our main mash to make sure we're hitting our right temperature. In our case, we wanna hit 152. It's kind of in between the two, the beta sac and the alpha saccharization rests. That's what we're looking for this particular beer style. We don't want to overshoot it. Now that this mash is at 212, you want to carefully add it in. Don't add in too much to your main mash. Make sure to stir it too, because there's going to be definitely hot pockets. It's going to be very uneven. So stir this up really well as you're adding it in. You can let that grain that's in the decoction cool down. Once it's cooled down to the right temperature, you can move it in so more conversion can happen there. Getting ready for this Maibock brew, I read one of these books in the classic beer style series, The Bock. It was really good to read this book beforehand. I got all the history there is to bocks, and there's a fascinating history behind these. It covers everything you want to know, from the water chemistry to the fermentation and the brewing process that has been historically done with bocks, and what you can do for a homebrew setup. Northern Brewer carries a whole series of these style books, and if you really want to get into different styles of beers, if you want to brew it correctly or understand where it came from, these are great books for that. Pull in the second decoction. It doesn't have to be as thick as the first one. We're just raising this up to the mash out temperature. You don't need as much here as the first decoction. What we're doing right now is mostly Pilsner. There's a little bit of Carahel in here, and to get that kind of all the flavor we want to get out of this Pilsner malt, all the maltiness, it really helps doing a decoction. Bring this to a boil. Then we're going to add it back into the main mash to bring it up to mash out temperatures, and we're ready to sparge. I got in here 6:45, it's now 10:30, so we're not even at sparging, and it's been a little less than 3 hours, 4 hours. Well, this one definitely is thinner. It's had time to convert, so it's more gelatinized, easier to work with. Bocks are said to have originated from the town of Einbeck. Their beers are quite renowned. The townspeople would actually take in the town's brew kettle, and each person would be brewing there under controlled circumstances, controlled recipe, controlled quality control, and the city would then buy their wort and ferment it out. And so there's really a lot of brewers involved in Einbeck, but somehow they still were known for having consistent, excellent beer in the region. So renowned that the town of Munich called one of the brewmasters up, and that's where the Bock was made and mass produced there in the Hofbrauhaus from one of the brewers of Einbeck. Maibocks were made as soon as the technology was there to create paler malts. They were able to make this beer that was perfect for May. Right in the spring, it still had the strength of a Bock, still had that malty sweetness, but it was paler, it was more hop forward, kind of a perfect in-between winter and summer beer. All right, looks like we've hit our second decocted boil. We're gonna let this boil up here for a good 10-15 minutes. I wanna help keep breaking down the protein, release some of that oxygen we put in when we were mixing it, and help with some of the Maillard reactions. Making sure not to scorch the bottom, of course. No more decocting. I'm tired already. It's been over 4 hours, and it's time to mash out. Oh yeah, just totally beaten down. Smells nice and malty. Okay, so we have a pre-boil gravity of, looks like 1065, and our target original gravity is gonna be 1068, so we're gonna blow past it. It looks like we might have to dilute this. Doing the decoction was very efficient. We got as much of the sugars out of there as we possibly could. So, looks like we just get more beer, or perhaps a stronger beer, whatever we choose. For the 60-minute charge, we're gonna put in some German hops, typical of your Maibock. We've got the German Pearl and the Herzbrucker. These are gonna be our bittering hops. It'll give us some balance to this malty beer. We'll throw in another ounce of Herz at 15 minutes. So we get a little bit of hop flavor and aroma there. Make this a nice, refreshing brew. We are now cooled to the low 60s. We're whirlpooling to get all the hops, trubes, and any of the proteins caught in the middle. So when we pull the beer out into carboys, you can leave as much of that behind as we can. Swirl this, let it sit for 15 minutes or so, and then start collecting our wort. Oxygen is really important for yeast health, particularly when you're doing lagers, and super particularly when you're doing strong lagers like we just did. This Maibock's at about 1076, a little high for the style, but we want to make sure we give our yeast as much of a fighting chance as we can. We've got a really healthy yeast starter going, nutrients were thrown in here. There's no way you can reach the amount of oxygen levels shaking it, it's just impossible. One of the strains we chose, which is recommended for the Northern Brewer Kit, is 2124, the Bohemian Lager. This strain works pretty well at warmer temperatures. And the second strain is 2487, the Hellebuck. See if I can pitch this without dropping the stir bar in here. Well, this is the resting place of our double-decocted lager. We set up a blow-off tube, even though they're lagers, strong beer, healthy culture, I just don't want to clean up any mess, so we threw that on there. These guys are going to be sitting in here at about 50 degrees is what we're hoping to primary it at. We're going to bring it up for a day to do a diacetyl rest, and then we're going to drop it down for a few month lagering period, so they'll be ready for the party.
Welcome to May Day Parade Day in South Minneapolis at Casa de Bartelson. Cheers.
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 Things are about to get really wild around here, so we've had to hide away in the basement in order to do some tasting notes. It's the only place quiet enough anywhere.
Barely.
Quiet
enough.
Quiet being a relative term. So Joe, tell us what we're enjoying, and let's rap about it and get to the parade route.
Heck yeah. Well, we've got our Maibock that we brewed a few months ago. We've got one Bohemian lager here.
Yep.
And behind Dr. Walton, we've got Hellebuck. Same brew, 2 yeast. Double tasting notes. Let's try the
first one?
Bohemian lager first.
Yeah, happy May Day.
Happy May Day.
Tastes extremely traditional. We noted when we tasted this along its way that this one, I think, has that malty spiciness.
Mm-hmm.
It's clean.
Yep.
It's not quite crystal clear as much as the other one.
Right.
But it is a beautiful golden yellow. It's got a wonderful head on it too. This one.
Beautiful white head.
And it's not a small hitter, is it?
No, it's not. This puppy is at about 8.5% here.
Yep.
You can smell it even.
Mm-hmm. But I do think the malt sweetness does hide the alcohol a little bit. When I take a sip, I don't get that strong alcohol harshness.
No, it's not burning. It's not hot.
Tell us just real quick how long. What was the post brew day process on this beer?
Absolutely. So we had a temperature controlled freezer in which we did our primary in there, and before we lagered it, we slowly raised it up for a diacetyl rest.
Right.
As you should do with some lagers. So we raised it up to about 65 for a couple days. Let the yeast give a chance to kind of clean up some of the precursors to diacetyl. Diacetyl gives it kind of this buttery, popcorny flavor.
Right.
Definitely don't want that in the beer. Racked it, dropped it down, lagered it. A little bit more quickly than we should, but we were brewing for this event.
Yep.
So we pulled it out.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Here it is.
The lesson to be learned is, even though the point of this episode was brewing for an event, definitely know your brew schedule.
Yep.
If you're brewing for a wedding, or an anniversary or a backyard barbecue even specifically, or something like May Day, time sensitive, make sure you know your schedule. We didn't think about this till maybe 2 or 3 weeks too late. And we're like, hey, this would be a great idea. Let's do a Maibock for May Day. But it's still awesome.
Along those lines, I'd also recommend having a contingency plan. This parade was supposed to happen a week ago.
Yep.
It's happening today. You got to be prepared for that kind of thing. You know, I had a beer that I was going to put in a firkin.
Yep.
And that didn't work out. So you got to be ready for anything.
And now this keg's half gone too, so.
Yeah, that's true. See, I had the same problem. He's been drinking it all week. So.
All right, let's tear into this other
Hellebuck?
one.
Okay.
Hellebuck.
So a little bit more clarity
Yeah,
here.
you can see this one is much clearer. Not as much of a head, but still seems to have as much intense carbonation as far as the bubble's concerned.
Now this is the one that Dawson, the yeast that Dawson highly praised, the Hellebuck.
Yeah.
He does love that yeast.
The nose is, to me, a little spicier. It's almost like the yeast maybe ate through more of that malty sugar and left kind of that spicy residue.
Yep.
I think this comes off as a little more bitter. It's got a little more hot presence in the flavor.
Absolutely, yeah, that comes through more in this one.
Yep.
I kind of like that, actually.
Not as much as the malt backbone
Right.
as the other one had. The other one was a little sweeter. This one is a little further along. I think it's
Sure,
not as-
yep.
It's drier, right?
Yep.
These are great beers. Even on the commercial scale, these are some of the best beers. It's awesome when springtime comes, and the couple of examples you can find around here. Summit, who makes one on the domestic scale, but then
That's a
a
great
couple of
beer,
the
yeah.
German ones
Yep.
pop up. And they pop up in their awesome flip-top bottles, which are great for, squirreling away for secondary use.
There you go. Yep.
No, I've always loved the Maibock just for that. It's brewed for an occasion. It's for a celebration. It's one of the greatest times of the year because you can start doing your summertime activities, and traditionally you could start planting food again.
Yep.
There you go.
It was kind of sad because you couldn't brew anymore. It got too hot to brew, but you could grow food.
Right.
So it was kind of a trade-off. Some of my favorite beers are like that. They're part of the world that they're from. They're from the culture.
Yeah.
They're there because they need to be there.
And this has a strength to get us through all the craziness that's going on
Yes.
outside and upstairs.
Yes.
It's definitely not a lawnmower beer. It's crisp and
No.
it's refreshing, but
It's
this is
strong.
not what you're having 3 of on an 80-degree day.
No.
And I will note that this too is a little bit stronger than what what we kind of intended. We did a double decoction on this. I'm sure you remember that was from 2 minutes ago in the video. And so we were very efficient with our brew, and this came out 1074 instead of 1068. Not
That's
that huge of a deal,
fine. It's
but it's a little. I think it's 8.5. I said so.
Top tier mafia.
There we go.
So if you want to plan accordingly, you might want to start thinking about making a Maibock in 2012, maybe late 2012, right? Like November or December even? So another brew calendar pointer is if you're planning on doing an Oktoberfest this fall, 2012, you're kind of already late, but you're not necessarily too late.
You're fine.
You want to be doing that in March prior to the October or September. You're going to...
That's when it would be traditionally
Right.
done. You can still do it. And, nowadays we have refrigerators. You can do it, and
Yep.
you can brew in August if you
There
wish.
you go.
But yeah, I think this beer would you could brew it in January, February even.
Absolutely,
if you really
yeah.
wanted to.
I think it'd benefit with a little bit more time
Yes.
sitting in the carboy, but
With
I'm very
lagers,
happy
more
with it.
time is always better.
It sounds like the parade's already getting started between Andrew's son Ivan and a couple of neighbor kids. The real parade's about to get underway, so we need to get the heck out of this scary, dank basement and out into the nice sunshine.
Scary.
It's a little scary, man.
I'm nervous.
Okay,
It's a little scary.
it is old. It is old.
No. Ain't nothing left to say. Ain't nothing left to say. So, for another awesome episode of Brewing TV, I'm Chip Walton.
I'm Joe Giambruno.
I'm Andrew Bartelson.
All for Brew.
Brew for all.
Whoop, whoop.
Cheers, gentlemen.
That's my bot.
I brewed it.
It's my box.
But you can have a little.
It's my house. It's my box.
It's your bot. It's in your kegerator.
Yeah, it's in my kegerator.
Okay, welcome to parade day. Things are a little chaotic around the Bartelson house here, so we've had to like. There's a kid running across the floor. Dogs
That's
coming
mine.
in.
Yep, there he is.
So we're trying to salvage a little piece before the chaos ensues even deeper. Hurricane Ivan.
What? Go upstairs. Oh, and it's Max. Okay, boy. Hey, boys. Hey, hey. Upstairs now. 1. Get down. Upstairs. 1, 2, 3. Get up. Out of here.
I hope you're filming.
Oh, it's rolling. Damn.
We may not be able to get back out.
That's
Is that the door?
breaking his child's neck.
That was the door.
All right, we'll start all over. All right, here we go.